I don't often have. I mean, occasionally I have that. Usually, I have that um, if somebody has, if their last fight they got a real kicking or something like that. Then when they come to me, it's okay, right. So then we deal with that, and then we get them, moving on towards focusing on their goal, which is ultimately about the best thing you can do for that anyway.
Yeah.
But obviously, sometimes you do have to clear up some of those things. So not often, but I think part of that is due to the way that I work anyway.
Okay. So it's mainly any kind of confidence or mental blocks, but it's getting them to focus on on their next fight or their next
Yeah,
performance.
exactly. I have fighters walking around knowing that they're going to win the fight. Weeks before, and this is something that I don't like to use the word program, but I'll drop into them, I'll install and I'll instill. I'll have them do themselves, so that when they're going to buy a paper, they're walking and they'll walk in a certain way that lets them know they're real and recognise and connect to the fact that they are the person who wins that fight on the 27th of September in whatever venue the fight's taking place.
Okay. And how long do you typically work with the clients? How many?
Some clients I work every week. Most clients, what I work with is about 3 to 4 weeks before, and usually a week after.
Okay.
Because if the person's never going to fight again, then the post-fight analysis and post-fight work isn't important. If they are going to fight again, which most fighters are, then it's really essential at capturing all and any useful feedback when it's still fresh in their mind, basically.
So if it's that week after's making sure they don't ruminate on all their all the issues, and they move on into their next training and the next fighting.
Well, as far as ruminating, I'd probably say I would be looking specifically at what went wrong in order for them to learn at how to do something differently next time, to how to do something that's going to be more useful and more effective next time. But I won't be brushing over anything, because that's not paying attention to the feedback that you got, namely that like a kick in the head knocked you down, hands down.
Yeah.
So I will be scrutinising and looking at what happened. And be asking the person, well, what kind of state they were in, what were they thinking there, what was going through their mind, and particularly at that moment, but more specifically just before then, just to see if there's anything that I can uncover. And I'll use hypnosis, I'll use neurolinguistic programming, integral eye movement therapy, which is Andy Austin's change work approach, and various other things in that particular portion to get the most out of that particular post-fight part.
Okay, so I mean, your background has been in hypnotherapy and NLP, as well as other things. From working with sports people, what have you found to be the most useful tools when working with them? Has it been some of the more traditional sports psychology tools that you would find in a textbook, or has it been some of the tools that you've then adapted whilst you've gone along?
Well, I mean, what I like to do is I like to pick what I have found to work, and then what quite often happens is that gets sort of turned into this amalgamation of all the things that I've learned, and I do it all at once. So, for instance, a visualization will turn into a piece of trance work, will turn into mental rehearsal, can turn into some hypnosis or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I will take things from sort of some of the more useful things from sort of sports psychology stuff, as well as a lot of the sort of NLP standard techniques I'll have adopted and changed for my own ends. But I nearly always use hypnosis. Hypnosis for me is a real bedrock of my work. And I find it really useful. I find that clients and fighters really get a lot from that. So that is something, that is something that I use lots and lots.
Okay. So pretty much hypnosis is your bedrock, and then you add other things on top of that as it goes along.
Yeah, and there's a big crossover in how I present all that stuff anyway.
Okay, I mean, one of the things you touched on briefly in regards to the feedback at the week after from the fighter. I mean, you've been in martial arts for, like you said, over 20 years, and obviously you found this vital. But I think that you could go and work with most sports people without necessarily having the experience in that sport, or with sports especially, do you think it's important that the coach or the person has a strong grounding in that sport?
I think because fighting is such a, I say funny thing. It's not funny if you're on the other end of it, but because it's such a sort of primal thing. I think that having some sort of background in it, it's definitely afforded me an advantage, and I guess I haven't faced a lot of the resistance that maybe some of the other people who'll be like, oh, who's this kind of like psycho babble geek that's got coming in. That may happen. I think that is changing specifically in mixed martial arts for the simple reason that mixed martial artists are great people to work with, because the whole ideology behind it is that it's an evolving thing. So people are looking at, I don't care what it is, does it work? Yes, then I'll use it. So that's really useful.
It certainly brought this cross-training aspect to it, in regards to mixed martial arts.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lovely quote which of Randy Couture's, which I pinched, which is that I think he says something like, it sort of goes along the lines that although most fighters believe that fight is 90% mental and 10% physical, they train 90% physical and 10% mental. This is going to have to change as MMA continues to evolve, or those fighters will be left behind. So, and that's Randy Couture saying that. So
yeah, pretty much the legend.
Yeah, that's some validation there. So it does seem to be getting better and better.
Because I'm quite into mixed martial arts, but I don't see many names of the kind of like the mind people. You tend to hear a lot about the sports and conditioning coaches that they use, but you rarely hear, if any, of any people working with the mindset and things. Are you aware of many people or not?
It seems to be a growing number, and I know some people like to keep it on the down low. They don't like to. I mean, I work with one guy who's got a current domestic cage fighting title, and his approach was, I don't want people to know what I've got here. He was like, no, it's mine. I don't want anyone else to get access to you, because he obviously rated what I did with him, which was great for me in one sense, then not great. It's like, yeah, but I want more business. God damn it.
Yeah.
So
can't use a testimonial if you can't.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he still owes me a testimonial actually, and so it's tricky. I mean, some people do it but don't talk about it. I think it is a thing, because it's something that if you say you're seeing a hypnotist, ooh, what's wrong with you? They might sort of there's probably, they might get a bit of ribbing, or it might not be considered. But it is a lot of people not a lot of people, but there's a couple of people who say that they're sort of sports psychologists and all the rest of it, and that, without having any kind of sort of certification in sports psychologist. I'm not a sports psychologist. If anything, I'm a sports hypnologist, which is a name that my friend and teacher Barry Thane, who's an excellent hypnotist, probably one of the most amazing hypnotists I've ever seen and learned from, came up with the idea. So I'm just borrowing that phrase from Barry.
That's a nice little tale.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So people that want to get into working with sports people or fighters in general, what kind of skills do you think that they need as a change worker in order to succeed?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. and I think, what do they need? I think that they need to be. I think they need to. I think they need to have that congruity. So. And flexibility. Now, let me explain that. By congruity, I mean, that they need to be able to come across as, okay, I'm in charge here at this level of expertise, because that's the framework and the structure. Not all the time, but most of the time, because that's the level and framework that martial artists learn in. They've got a coach, they've got a sensei, they've got a master, they've got a professor, they've got this head who teaches them, who they go to learn skills. So this is an existing framework, so it makes sense to piggyback off of that, and then therefore that helps bypass a lot of resistance. So being able to come across as that, also the flexibility to be able to flow with anything, so that if you are doing something, and you might have some athletes that will respond quicker to one thing than the other. The flexibility to be able to switch and change into something else which is going to be more useful. Because what you don't want is that you don't want the athlete finishing the session and then going back to the gym and saying, I didn't rate it. Because if you do that, then you won't have any more repeat business, because it's like it only takes one bad testimonial to scupper 10 good ones or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know how specifically they got that statistic,
but that, I suppose with mixed martial arts or martial arts, they're normally camps, aren't they? So if you've got one person and it doesn't work, and then he goes and tells all the other ones, you might as well just go to another camp, because
exactly. And so you sort of find yourself becoming more aligned with certain camps, which is something that I've sort of experienced. But what else? What other things would I say to do? Be able to. I think humour is quite often a big part of training with sports people, and so being personable is really, really important. I think above anything, you have to be personable and still be able to get respect from the person and deliver results ultimately. If what you're doing, it's not that effective, you need to either sharpen your skills or get into a different skill set, which is going to be giving you the results that your clients and athletes want.
So by the sounds of it, you're trying to create the same environment that they're used to when they're training for the other parts of their game. When they're training for the submissions and the stand up, and
Aaron, what I do is I tell my athletes, I tell the fighters that I work with that I say from this moment on, if you want to be a consummate professional at this, and quite near, more often than not they do, this is now part of your training. Deal with it. This is part